Welcome back, everyone, to the Atlanta Realtors Rundown. My name is Manny Recinos, and this is a bittersweet episode because it will be my last leading as chair for the podcast. But I am very excited because we have two of our incredible hosts that will continue on for 2024. So we have Mr. Matt LaMarsh and Kate Wright as well. So welcome. I'm excited about this 2023 recap episode.
Absolutely. I think it's been a phenomenal year for the podcast, a great year for Atlanta Realtors as well. Kate, what do you think?
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
I'm excited to sit down with both of y'all. We've had a lot of great guests.
We have.
And it's also fun for us to be able to have an opportunity to do this together.
I know. And the crazy part is we don't often do this on camera, right? We kind of do it at the beginning of the year, the end of the year. But I'm glad we're going to talk a little bit about our teamwork and everything that has helped just launch this podcast into what it is now. So I'm excited. Well, let's jump right into question number one as we do. I'll start asking y'all and then I'll think on my side as well. Just reminiscing about the past year, what is a standout or a defining moment or highlight that you've had with your guests?
Ladies first.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily one in particular guest. All my guests have been such a joy to have in here. I think it's been fun. You know these people. For me, I know a lot of them on a personal level, and so to be able to share that personal relationship that I have with all of our listeners has really just been very fulfilling and joyful for me. I think the other thing that has been kind of a standout moment that really didn't happen in the first year because we were just starting and gaining traction is having people reach out to me and say that they heard an episode that really made an impact to them. So as grateful as we are to have the guests who've come in and to share with them and to have that experience with them, it's also a really neat experience for me this year to hear from listeners and just to get their feedback or, hey, I really loved that episode and I ended up reaching out to this person and we're meeting for coffee next week. Or I really loved hearing what they said about this and I'm glad they said it. It just made me feel more real. So being able to have that connection with the listeners and, using your guest to extend that knowledge or that experience with someone else is probably one of the most impactful or standout moments that I've had throughout this year.
I love it.
Yeah. I think there's two for me. The first is, we meet once a month as a committee here. And if you've never been involved with ARA, that's kind of the norm. You have a committee meeting. And so you don't really get to see a lot of the behind the scenes for planning the content, making a schedule, getting great quality people through here as guests, and then helping them promote it on their social media platforms and in their, databases and stuff. So I think kind of learning and starting this thing from scratch was really cool because we got to kind of build it how we wanted to as an association. And so, each one of us, I thought, brings and brought something to the table that is very unique and my strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa. And so really getting to be thoughtful and getting different perspectives from other members was really cool. But the second was, and I love that Kate mentioned this because I've had so many people not just say I've listened to the podcast or I've listened to an episode, but they'll say, I listened to this episode and this was my takeaway, or this is what I learned. And I thought that was really, really cool. And that's happened dozens of times now. So there's a couple episodes that definitely stick out for me. And, as we watch the momentum build, but also the regular subscriber count is going up, which is nice as well. So I think that's a vindication, if you will, of our efforts for the last year and a half year or so. But I'm really excited about next year. Some of the people that we've already got lined up for next year's episodes, I think it's going to be incredible. And really, it's not just about Atlanta real estate. It's about the influence of Atlanta real estate across the nation and others that have, been here, come here, visited here, and the perspective they've kind of gotten. And just honestly, a wider range of guests nationwide. So I'm really excited about next year as well.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the highlights of doing this honestly has been the behind the scenes stuff that sometimes happens as we're having these convos. I mean, some of it is just kind of I'm meeting some of these guests for the first time, right? Others, like Kate, you mentioned, we know or are friends that have come on. But some of the convos we have as we prep or as we finish up and we're kind of like, woof, okay, we did the episode. Those moments have stood out. Some emotional ones, like I said, some hilarious ones. Glenda, I'm looking at you on that one. But yeah, some of those like those moments outside of even what we get out there in the 30, 45 minutes that we get to chat with our members is a highlight for sure.
You brought up like the emotional component of this, and I never came into this thinking that it would be emotional to me. And there have been multiple moments where I feel like people have just been so vulnerable on here and so open that I have to like look away or like try to laugh just not to cry, because we all know this business is really hard. Yeah. And the people who are really good at it or seemingly really good at it are having the same struggles that everybody else is having. And I had a couple guests in here, specifically like Alex French, who were really vulnerable about personal things happening in their life and how they maintain their business throughout it. And it's real. Like that, this is real life. These are people's real lives. These are our careers. This is what puts food on the table for a lot of our families. And to sit down and be able to really like look inside and, get behind the door on these people's lives and how they're, facilitating their business through adversity and different struggles. And even people who didn't come in to talk about that, shared different things that have been hurdles for them. There were a lot of moments that definitely invoked emotion when I was not expecting that. So I'm very grateful that my guests were willing to be so transparent. And all the episodes I listened to, I felt people were very honest and raw and real. So that was another, I would say, I don't want to say highlight, but it was another thing that really stood out to me.
There's an emotional component to sitting down with someone. And again, it happens so fast. By the time we're done talking, it's like, wow, it's, we have the timer going, it's 45 minutes or whatever. But you're right. As you were speaking, I was thinking about when I sat down, I had just met Jane Lomas and Amber Brandenburg, and we were talking about the Community Service Committee, which I will be honest, and I think I said it on that episode, I was not fully aware that we had that here at the association. So I was happy to take that on and have that conversation. But hearing the why behind, for example, why Jane had partnered, or why the committee had partnered with certain organizations, you start feeling that tug at your heart. And then I can tell you, just hearing some of the stories from people like Glenda Baker, or hearing it from Deanne Golden, when we talk about those people that have raised us, man, I'm thinking back to the things that we discussed in those episodes, and it you can't help but remember all the stuff we are going through and have gone through. It's pretty wild.
Well, I think in addition, we had Amanda Dahl come in this year, and she did a business planning clinic for the association last year. And speaking about the emotional component of this, there were 3 or 4 people that approached me after that business clinic and said, we were thinking about getting out of this business. And when you hear that, you're like, ooh, I just got goosebumps just saying it out loud. Yeah. And I said to Amanda, I've got to have you on a podcast episode. We've got to give our members practical and tactical things that they can actually walk away with, because you just did a great job with this thing, and now we need to send it to a bigger audience, right? And that's one of the things that I love about this platform, because to your points, it can get raw, it can get real, it can get authentic. And I think a lot of people don't walk through the door to the studio here and go, today I'm just going to tell Manny about my personal life and kind of unleash, some of the personal side of them. But something happens when you sit down and start talking about this stuff. But the fact that we do have committees and organizations within this organization that you can be your authentic self in, number one, but number two, that you can actually get more practical and tactical information out of. And Scott Askew's is another one that really sticks out to me, that several people have approached me and said, I loved that episode. I loved Scott's perspective on lead generation and on this and on that. And I would have never thought to try that in my business. And that to me is like where the rubber really hits the road. And that's why I love being part of this committee so much.
Well, and that's where a lot of these episodes are coming from, right? Like, we're having conversations with members. We're involved in different committees here. The 3 of us have been involved at probably every capacity you could here, almost. Not all, but almost every. And we're very familiar with the association and relationships here. But that's where a lot of our content's coming from, is our relationships that we have within the association and our relationships outside of that circle. What are people talking about? What are people looking for? What are people wondering? What are people wishing they had? What tools do we need? And I really think we had great guests to cater to a lot of those things this year. Like Matt said, a follow-up to one of the clinics we did here. It went so well, he said, well, why don't we get this information in front of other people? We've spent the year just putting our brains together and our relationship circles, our networks together to extend a benefit to all the members by the guests and the messages that we're bringing to them. So that has been very cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that, as we were preparing to launch the podcast and we were having conversations with, executive and ourselves, obviously, as we were launching it, we really wanted to focus on having different backgrounds, different experiences, right, as hosts. So my question that I wanted to pose for us to kind of chat about is, as individuals with diverse experiences, how do you think our unique experiences and perspectives influenced the podcast's overall kind of content and growth?
That's a great question. I think that, I love media, and I think that the real purpose of this podcast is to not just shine a light on the association, but its members as well, because we have some phenomenal, and it's not just about being a top producer. Let's be very clear. There are a lot of people that have, really incredible stories that they've shared with us already. And even those top producers that have shared amazing techniques and amazing strategies that have built incredible businesses that they're going to be able to pass down generational wealth for years. And so for me, that's one of the highlights, because I think to the outsider maybe that hasn't been involved with the association, that has no engagement here, that just sends the check in every year because I got to be a part of it as a result of my office or whatever, I don't think they really get a full perspective of what we do. Yeah, you get the emails and the text messages about, the different events and stuff that we've got going on. But until you walk through the doors and until you take a CE class with Capitus and until you attend your new member orientation, you don't realize the breadth and the depth of how much we really do here. And I think that, as looking back over the last year, a lot of associations, their numbers have been dwindling. Our engagement has remained relatively high, and we've actually seen a plateau in terms of memberships when a lot of people are getting out of the business. So my hope for the podcast as it continues in years down the road is that it will continue to shine a light, but that new people will come into the fold, that we will have new guests, that we'll have new hosts, that people that can really tie a bow on what the experience should be like here. And so I'm excited to see the other conversations that get created next year as well, and how that kind of continues to build the momentum that we've created here.
Yeah.
I think part of the beauty of this member body is how diverse it is. And it is such a large, we're considered a mega board.
Yeah.
It is such a large association that we have so many different voices and so many different people here that, we want that to be a reflection, of our association through our podcast as well. And everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different background, a different perspective, a different way they do their business. You could have one person come in. I've had multiple people come in that run their business completely different from one another, yet they've all been successful, or they all have something that they're successful in that, arena or realm. And so I think the beauty of the podcast is being able to see a lot of different perspectives that you don't necessarily just get to see when you come to a class. You come to a class, you hear the teacher, you get a benefit, and it is a benefit. You maybe talk to a couple people when you head to the restroom where you have a quick break, but you really don't get to have that in-depth experience with some of these members. And there are so many members. Our membership spans not just in a little pocket. We cover a lot of ground here. Yeah. And if you talk to even just the people in leadership here, there are people who come really from far away to be a part of this association because it's just that great. So to be able to bring in, through the three of us, people from our networks and people from our experiences. I know one of my guests I met through Matt. So, just meeting people through the association and through our involvement here, and then being able to bring them in and let them tell their story, where they really wouldn't probably have had a platform for the Atlanta Realtors to share it or tell it otherwise. It gives you that, a more intimate look into our members' lives.
Yeah.
And then the people that we're bringing in from outside of our membership body are people that you, Manny, Matt, we've formed a relationship with, that we know has maybe benefited us so deeply or so greatly in our career or in our journey, that we know that would be a benefit to every member, despite their background or where they come from or what market they work in. Yeah. So that to me is like the beauty of the diversity of our association, and the power behind what we have here is that we have such a broad spectrum of experiences and people and niches and, whatever it is. Yeah. That we can bring to the table, and that we're trying, I would say, very hard and intentionally to put out in this podcast to our guests so that everybody feels touched.
Yeah, for sure. I know Matt, for example, is someone that we've relied on because you have some podcast experience, and especially even on the back end, right? Being able to see kind of the trends and what listeners are really interested in, and all of that. That's been something I've learned a lot from. And Kate, like your mastery to be able to chat and listen and be able to connect with that guest is so incredible, and your reach, right? Because I know you've brought in even people from across the country that have been on your podcast, where for the first time we had to figure out how do we get them through, even though they're in different states, how do we still have that conversation? So those are just experience that I think make a really well-rounded group of hosts, and I'm excited to see how that continues for sure.
Yeah. Do you think, because I know we've built a lot of momentum, we watch, again, behind the scenes, we watch the downloads and the plays increase every single month, and, we've gotten into a really good routine with every other week we're releasing a podcast. Every once in a while we'll have a unique guest or a unique situation where we'll insert a topic or a dynamic speaker. But in the future, I think a lot of people don't realize how much work kind of goes in behind the scenes, like you said earlier. But to be honest, as we look at the list of topics, because, we've had multiple association members approach us and say, hey, it would be great if we heard on this topic, or I know so-and-so and they know this like the back of their hand and they should come on the podcast. That's how we've generated a lot of these conversations and a lot of these episodes. So, if you think your voice isn't being heard, that's not true. We still have a laundry list of topics and subjects to cover. So if you know someone that's great on an audio and video platform that would be a great host here, we'd love to have them come through the pipeline here and sit down and talk about what does this committee look like, but also a guest. Even if you can't commit to a full 2 years, as part of this committee, I think to have you on as a guest would be amazing, because everyone does have that story and they've got that opportunity to share. And this is a great platform for it as we get to, nearly 1,000 downloads a month. I mean, for 2 episodes, that's a ton of eyeballs and ears really taking this content in.
Yeah, and I've heard, a past president specifically say this is one of the most forward-facing committees we have, in this association and platforms. It is very, very real time. We can get in, record an episode if we need to, and be able to put out information as this industry calls for it. And I'm excited because, to what Matt just said, we will soon be announcing a way to be able to submit your information, if you are interested. So that is an exciting thing that's going to be coming out soon, because we want that evolving group of hosts as well. Right. And I think that's the perfect point or place to really also thank the incredible staff that put this together. It's not just us, and just for the sake of not calling people all out completely, but really it takes everything from the sound to the video to our marketing to the committee being run. So this is not as easy as it may seem, but it is incredibly rewarding. So we want to make sure people understand, and our membership knows that this is an opportunity we want to make sure that people are taking advantage of, because we want those different experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, staff.
Yes,
big time.
thank y'all. Considering the ever-changing landscape of our industry that I kind of mentioned, y'all have the mics, and you will be joined, I'm sure, by others. But next year, y'all have the mics for what's coming. And I'm wondering, do you have an idea of what you want to bring, or is there any special previews you can give us for 2024?
Go ahead, Kate.
Well, Manny, I think one of the biggest things that we've probably already harped on is that this is really all about the members. Yeah. And so a lot of the content that we've been discussing and a lot of the content that we've been preparing, you've helped for next year, all centers around things that we've, experienced in conversation or had people reach out to us asking questions about, wanting to hear more about. Again, we're involved in a lot of committees, so you hear a lot of sidebar conversation, things that we need to be talking about, things, resources that people would like to have access to, trying to maneuver our schedule around those things, being tasteful and, time sensitive. Like you just mentioned, we try to get things out as quickly as possible, but we can't always on a podcast, you can't always beat something to the punch, but you can come back behind it and hit it again. So if there are relevant, real-time things that need to be addressed, we'll certainly do our best to get to that in 2024. But we are going to, really try to position the members who are listening to have success from every single episode that we're putting out, and try to hit on things and try to bring people in that have perspectives or experience or expertise in areas that we haven't necessarily already touched on.
Yeah. Well, and it's, as she's saying that, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so if the three of us interviewed one guest, they would be 3 different podcasts.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And so with new hosts coming in, obviously having a ready and steady stream of guests is great. But I'm really excited to see who our next hosts are going to be, the value that they're going to add, because as I listen to the 2 of your podcasts, I'm like, oh man, I would have asked this question next, right? And not that that's any better or worse, it's just my style, right? It's my personality. Mm-hmm. And I love to hear the different perspectives, because to me, that's really what adds a different layer. And you as a member getting to become a host, or you as a member getting to become a guest, I think is going to be really, really cool to see. But there's always a couple that I always kind of look forward to, whether I'm the host or not. I always enjoy the economic outlook. I think having the Federal Reserve in here to talk directly to our association is massive, and we cannot understate the value of that. No one has a crystal ball, but they see trends, they're making plans, they're doing what they do, and I think to have that as a resource is really, really valuable. And I think that's probably one of the more underrated, episodes out there. But in addition, like you guys said, back to the members, I think there's so many people out there that are just waiting to tell their story, and maybe they just have never had the opportunity to give it or tell it before. So I think next year, that's what I'm most excited about, is hearing the new hosts that come in, but also their perspective, their personalities, and kind of bringing that into the fold. Because the way that you, Manny, interview in particular is very unique to Manny.
Yeah.
And no one else is going to be Manny during their run as a host here. So.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I enjoy listening to both of your episodes. And another thing that we haven't really hit on that I have found I do, and I don't know if you guys do, when I'm in conversation, especially with newer agents, I'll reference a specific episode and be like, you need to go listen to this episode. They'll bring something up, they'll start talking about something, and I'm like, you need to go listen to like Jody's episode about relocation.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've got to go listen to Jody's episode. And they're like, oh, okay, well, how do I listen to it? I'll send you a link. And I send them the link, and they text me back or call me back, or I see them at there's a ballet mom I see some from time to time. And she's like, I listened to the podcast episode. And I'm like, how was it? She was like, so helpful. So, being able to reference specific podcasts and give them as resources has also been really helpful.
Yeah, huge.
You're right. I've had the pleasure this year of running the new member orientation, right? And one of the episodes that I always get to plug, and people have told me they've listened to, is the episode we did with Reggie, who runs the association here. And it's incredible to hear the feedback of people are like, wow, I didn't know this, or I hadn't thought about this, or you talked about it for this quickly on a slide, and that's one of those that is like here to learn more, go see, and then they come back and they're like, and then I heard these other episodes, and I didn't know you talked to this person, or I didn't know about this organization.
Maybe Reggie's should be a mandatory episode, because everyone needs to know Reggie.
It was education, but listen, Reggie is also hilarious. So it was one of my. It definitely stands out as one of my favorites.
I enjoyed that one too, and I think we've just been saying it, but the nicest part about something like that is that you get to know that person a little bit more personally without getting to know them. Reggie cannot possibly meet all of our members. He cannot. There's no possible way that he could sit down with, 14,000 people and have that conversation. So if 14,000 people now have access to that conversation, they get to know Reggie on a deeper level, and it's really a tool for them. It's a benefit to them. They can come up to him and start a conversation based off of that podcast that they wouldn't have been able to have otherwise, or they have a knowledge about him that they wouldn't have had. So there are a lot of ways that this podcast can not only benefit us as members, but really our association as a whole.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, when we're talking about what we're looking forward to for next year. I love hearing the spotlights on what our members are involved in, right? That's kind of where some of my favorite episodes go is what are they involved in? What are they doing? You know, what committees we have here. I mean, there's so many, right?
Right.
And I think that's something, you know, even some of the nonprofits that have been featured in the past. I know there's so many other speakers that we're, you know, y'all will have on and other hosts will have on that maybe they have a connection with or they've worked with before. So that's one of the big things I'm looking forward to.
Well, and to dovetail on that too, I've been noticing a trend here as I post more to socials about the podcast and stuff that even consumers, even my clients are now listening to the podcast as well, right?
Yes.
Which I think if you're a member of this association and you've only listened to one podcast, you should probably go find one or two that you can share on your social media platforms because there could be value for them in those episodes. And so whether it's relocation and what you should be looking for in a relocation realtor, you know, in an area that you're moving into, or, you know, even how we as agents and advisors and realtors get business might be a really good little insight, you know, to the world that we run. Because, you know, you see all these posts about what real estate agents do and what realtors do, and it's a laundry list, right? But I think that, you know, being involved in an association, having a different level of leadership and commitment to an organization like this is really understated at this point. And I'm using it as an opportunity to tell my clients, to tell my sphere of influence, even other agents, look, there's this phenomenal resource out there for everyone. I mean, we say we're the voice of Atlanta real estate, so we can't just be the voice of Atlanta realtors, right? This is good content for everyone. And that economic one, as an example, I think was one of the ones that I had a lot of consumers reach back out and say, that was really interesting. You really got down into the nitty gritty of the numbers and the market and what's happening from a different perspective than talking to a real estate professional.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a few people who reached out and said that they listened to my episode with Emily on first-time home buyers. So another resource for somebody who's like, well, I'm not really sure if I'm ready for this. I'm not really sure if I, you know, where I stand. They might have listened to it and been like, oh, that kind of put me at ease. Or now I know what I need to discuss with the agent that I've been talking to, or, you know, different things like that. Yeah. So that's a great point as well.
Yeah, I'm sitting here with the craziest smile because obviously this is kind of the end of the era for me with it. But I had a client meeting, a first time meeting with a potential home buyer, and it was great. Like, it went well, and at the end of it, one of them, it was a couple, and one of them looked at the other and said, "Is it okay to say?" And he's like, "I'm going to say it anyways." He goes, "Meeting you, I was excited that your voice sounds like what I hear." And I went, "Wait, what?" Like, I was confused. And then he goes, "Oh, because we listened to the podcast, the Atlanta Realtors podcast.
Oh, wow.
And we were excited to meet you." And the reason I'm smiling so big is because obviously, like, there was a moment where I went, "Oh, that's really sweet," and like that means a lot. But it really is because it emphasized that I kind of forgot that I do that because I was in my business hat, right? My own business hat. But it did remind me how much heart it takes to do this and how much heart we all have when we do this podcast, that it is for the membership, as we've said, and it's topics and it's information that we want to keep sharing. But you're right. At the same time, we're providing info, and this podcast is such a platform for Atlanta real estate in general. And one of the things that we always make sure of, and I'm proud of, is we and our guests work really hard to make sure it's not broker specific. It is not a selfish, promotion when we come on here. Everyone that has been on this podcast has been selfless in the information they share. It was not for someone in their group or their demographic or their sphere. It was for everyone. And I think that's it's been a beautiful journey for me, for sure, to see in this endeavor.
And I think that's the beauty of the association as a whole. As I've become involved at the local level, the state level, and the national level, I've realized that this is one of the most collaborative spaces I've ever been a part of. These people want to be your friends. They come with open hands, and they're willing to share. I can't tell you how many times I've had to troubleshoot a situation with somebody, and I've reached out to a friend, at the state level or at the local or national level, and said, "This is what I'm dealing with. This is how my market works. This is what I'm coming up against." And they're like, "Have you tried this?" What about that? Here, I'm going to send you my girl. I'm going to send you my team, the marketing team. I'm going to, and everybody is so collaborative. It's not a competition here. And if you come in this space and you actually spend some time here, you will realize that it really doesn't matter your brokerage. It doesn't matter your volume. It doesn't matter your team. It doesn't matter. None of that is relevant here. This is a collaborative space where everybody's here to grow, learn, and help each other.
Yeah, it 100% is true. Well, as we're kind of winding down here, I know we've had a lot of laughs as well on this podcast together and apart with our hosts or with the staff that helps us do this. So I'll start and then give you all a minute to think. But I wanted to see if we can share what may be one of the funniest moments. And I will tell you right now, mine, you can probably go back and see. And luckily, I think we should be able to maybe do a little highlight later, but was probably our photo shoot, one of the photo shoots that we all did together. And if Casey's out there listening, then hopefully you can go and dig up some of these photos and we can do a behind the scenes reel.
No, I'm calling it. No, please don't.
I think there's some great ones in that. So yeah, that's probably my favorite kind of funny memory from this year with the podcast.
Yeah, we might have been able to pull off the podcast host situation. I don't know that we're models.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Casey wanted to kick us out.
One day she will have the perfect group of model / host.
At least we think we're funny.
Oh, yeah, for sure. True. Yeah. Do one of y'all wanna volunteer yours?
There's a couple I think that stick out because that photo shoot was hilarious, by the way, and it was so much fun. But it honestly, I mean, as I look back, because I saved all those pictures and have used a couple of them to help promote episodes and stuff. And as I look back at that, it just reminds me of what an effort has been put forth this last year. Because, I mean, a lot of you don't know this, but this literally started as an idea, right? And someone just said, we should have a podcast. And it was like, okay, so who do we put in place? What do we do? How do we record? How do we get this equipment? What is the content like? And it's not just the three of us, right? To your point earlier, Manny, you mentioned the staff, you mentioned the other association members and board members that are helping behind the scenes orchestrate schedules and get phenomenal guests out of their offices and out of their brokerages to come and talk to us and share their stories. So we can't ever overstate how important the team and the structure has been here, because even though we're the voices, there is a massive team behind us that's really helping us get to the next level. And I think as every year passes, this thing is going to get better and better, and we're going to have amazing new hosts and amazing new guests come through. So certainly the photo shoot and helping promote some of that. But there were a couple episodes that, you just never know, right? When you sit down with someone to talk to them about their life and their real estate life and their personal life and everything else, you get into their kids and their families and what they like to do on the weekends and stuff. And there were two episodes in particular for me that I actually listened to one and recorded with another. And fortunately, I was able to hold it together, but I was biting my tongue during the episode because I like to just go in and just knock it out, right? We don't edit this much. It's very organic. It's very authentic. Yes. But I was biting my tongue, trying to hold back the laughter. And they started laughing, and then I finally started laughing. But no, I think it's been really cool to see how this thing has grown. And to your point, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, the emotional piece that comes along with it, the laughing, because you kind of transport back to a time with your guests as they come in here to a different time and a different era and a different part of their life, and it's very transformative, I found.
Yeah. How about you, Kate? You got a good funny one for us?
I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm a person who likes laughter, but my episodes were pretty, not serious, but like we didn't have too many jokes in there. I could get distracted with that. So I feel like I can't kind of go down that funny path because then
Kate will get down to business.
Yeah, I got to get down to business here because if I start to get, on my like silly side, like people will be like, okay, that's enough. She's a joke. But honestly, this is, I'm not going to call anybody out, but this is what was the funniest thing to me is how many people came in here who were so nervous.
Oh, yeah?
And they'd be like, I'm really nervous to do this. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you produce the craziest, most amazing content on your social media and you're like forward facing and you do all these client events and you do this and you do that and you're so great and I always think you're so like on it and you're nervous to sit down with me.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
That's pretty funny.
Because we come in and we're just like, hey, we're just gonna have a conversation, and then the people on the other side are like, I've had multiple people who are like shaking,
it's the
or like,
microphone.
yeah, it's the microphone, or like
you put a microphone
tapping their feet, or like trying not to use their hands, but I can tell they're nervous,
Yeah.
and that is totally fine. But that was probably one of the things that stands out to me as being a little funny, because I'm like, these are people who not all, I can't say that. I and probably many other people like not idolize, but look at and say like they've got it going on. They've got it together. Yeah. They are the ish. And then when they come in and they're like a little nervous, you're like, you're just as human as I am. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this.
It is. It's great to then see that development from those nerves to like, hey, we're just having a conversation.
Oh, it takes 5 minutes to disarm them. Yeah. But, when they're getting everything ready and our amazing staff is setting everything up, they're just kind of looking around like, okay, what did I sign up for?
Kate mentioned we do kind of lock the door right before filming too. So if it wasn't scary enough, we're like, now you're in.
And then Jermaine says, if the air conditioning goes on, just keep talking. And I'm like, But, I have some moments where I'm like kind of thinking I want to kind of laugh at them, but I can't because that wouldn't be respectful. But as we're getting started, they're nervous. By the end, they're like, that was not bad. That was so fun. Thank you for having me. But it is a little, I get a little inside chuckle when people come in nervous and I think they're the bee's knees.
Yeah, it does. It happens. Well, listen, I don't know if y'all have any last, 2023 podcast words before you take on 2024. All right, let's start with Kate.
Well, I'll just be brief. Manny, I just want to say thank you. You've been such a great leader for us this year. Every episode I listen to, I feel your passion and I feel your genuine interest and your heart for our industry. And so it's been my joy to be able to be a co-host with you guys, you two, Matt. I'm looking forward to following behind you next year. But just want to say a special thank you to Manny as you roll off, because I think you've had a huge impact, not only in our podcast world, but just, in my career, in my life, and as a friend. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
I second that. And I didn't realize probably till like late January, early February, that Manny was doing podcasts as well as new member orientation. I was like, how... does he work? Does he have a life outside of the Atlanta Realtors?
Turns out.
No, but as Kate said so eloquently, I won't repeat it. But yeah, I think your commitment, not just to this committee, but our association in general, is amazing. And, we don't often get an opportunity to share publicly about, our membership, their amazing contributions to our association. And so thank you for that, because I feel like we've just kind of taken the baton now and we've got to run with it, right? But I really can't understate the fact that we have done so much work this year under your guidance and under your leadership to set this thing up for success for many, many years. And I think that the processes and the systems that we put in place, but the fun that we've had and the things that we've learned, honestly, about what was really, really good and what was great and what didn't work so well and we stopped doing and pivoted. But it's huge. And that will go on, fortunately for you and your legacy, for many, many years. So can't thank you enough for that.
So in like 10 years, Casey can post the throwback pictures from our photo shoot.
Oh, Lord. Where it all started.
Remember the OGs?
Right.
OGs.
We got rid of them.
No, I mean, I got to say the presence, keep looking out for the podcast and not just, Matt, Kate, and the next hosts, for 2024, but really just going forward. It's all one. We're just kind of these small, minions in this huge wheel of the podcast rundown, like the funny minions, the yellow ones. But no, keep looking out, because we always are trying to be present so that we can hear that the membership suggestions, like you said, on topics or voices that they want to hear.
Right.
I know that I will keep seeing y'all at the Outlook, like you mentioned, or the chili cook-off, right? I mean, Rundown has had a presence at these events, and they will continue to. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll tee it up for the next episode, which I'm really excited about, and I've loved being able to do these last couple years. And Matt, it's in your hands. It's the interviewing our next president, right? Kelly Thrash. We'll have her interview coming up, and I always am looking forward to those. So it will be a great time, I am sure.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I got to say it has been an honor to be your podcast chair Oh man, look at this.
Manny.
The raw emotion comes out in these mics.
Oh, Manny.
It has been an honor to be your podcast chair for 2023. Kate, Matt, and all the future hosts, I am here always. So I wish you all the best. And to all the listeners, keep on tuning in. We will see you next time.
And share it.
And share it.